Welcome back to Let's Talk Business Phoenix. Today, we're continuing with our Candidate Conversations mini-series focused on gubernatorial candidates. We want to remind you that this series is designed to provide a fair and objective platform for each candidate to share their perspectives and priorities ahead of the primaries. We hope you enjoy today's episode.
Welcome back to the Let's Talk Business Phoenix podcast. We have a very special guest today. We have Governor Katie Hobbs who's joining us. Governor, thank you for being here. Really appreciate the time.
Thank you for having me. I'm very happy to be here.
Well, as you know, this is a part of a series we're doing leading up to the election. And I guess we'll start with the $1 million question. Why are you running for re-election? And, what are some of the things that you think are the best arguments as far as the re-election that you're looking for?
Sure. I think that Arizona is stronger today because I have focused on putting partisan politics aside, putting Arizonans first, and tackling some of the tough challenges that, quite honestly, some of my predecessors had kicked the can down the road for a while on. I am always going to be focused on Arizonans, and I think that is really the choice in this election, that leadership that puts Arizona first or partisan politicians who put Washington first. And Arizona is dealing with the effects of Washington's policies that are raising costs every day at the gas pump, at the grocery store, at the doctor's office. And both of my opponents have championed these policies. And so I think that's really the choice in this election. Who's going to put Arizona first and who is working to bring Washington's chaos into Arizona? And I'm definitely focused on Arizonans.
We make a good point about having to work together. Clearly, you had a Republican legislature, Democrat governor, and there's no choice. You have to come together, for instance, on budgets and key bills. Talk to us a little bit about that. I think it made for some interesting sessions, but I think a lot would say divided government has been good for Arizona. But what's your take?
Well, I try to focus on the work that we have been able to get done together. And I think there's been some big successes, including 4 bipartisan balanced budgets this year. Well, every year delivering tax cuts. This year, the $1.4 billion that is putting money back in the pockets of Arizonans and businesses. I mean, when we're facing rising costs, both families and businesses, that's top of mind, and putting money back in their pockets is really important to keep us moving forward. I've also signed nearly 1,000 bills over my 4 years. So I know there's focus on sometimes the vetoes or the controversies, but we have been able to get a lot done together. The budgets are key, the 1,000 bills, and just some highlights there. I think the bills that I signed, not just signed, but worked to get across the finish line, keeping Axon and the Diamondbacks here, and their thousands of jobs that they support in the Phoenix area, keeping those jobs from going to other states. Prop 479 was critical, and that took a lot of work to get over the finish line, both at the legislature and then to voters in 2024. But those are just really, to me, stand out as huge examples of working together to do what's right for Arizonans.
479, it feels like it was 1,000 years ago, but
Yeah.
it was just happened.
Yep.
Well, why was that important to you?
So the 479, I'm sure a lot of folks watching this know, but I'll just a refresher, is infrastructure funding. It's the extension of existing 1 cent sales tax in Maricopa County that Maricopa County voters have voted in year after year. So it's 40. We're in the 40th year of it.
I believe so.
It's been a while.
Yes.
So this infrastructure funding is really critical to support projects, our roads, our public transportation, that brings investment to our state and to keep us growing. While the proposition is for Maricopa County, it's important for the whole state because it keeps other counties from having to compete with Maricopa County for those limited transportation infrastructure dollars. really helps improve the quality of life, reducing commute times to and from work. That reduces time away from your family, and it increases the quality of time you have with your family. It makes those commutes safer. And so that was really important. It was really hard to get across the finish line. It had to be passed at the legislature before it got to voters, as you know, and it had passed in 2022. And the governor, I think, unexpectedly vetoed it. And we had to make some concessions to get it done in 2023. And it took a lot of just bringing people together, staying at the table even when people wanted to get up and walk away. But we knew how critical it was for the state, and so we got it done.
Governor, as you're talking to companies looking to come to Arizona, how important is infrastructure as they're looking at a possible relocation?
It is absolutely critical. I mean, look at where TSMC is in North Phoenix. There's not a lot around it, and Prop 479, or its precursor, Prop 400, was a critical piece to get them to Phoenix, because they knew that financing to build the infrastructure around them would be there. In fact, we had the groundbreaking for the first Prop 479 project earlier this year, and it was at a freeway exchange right by TSMC. You could see the cranes in the background. It is critical knowing that the roads that they need to run their businesses are going to be there. And so it is a critical piece of that puzzle.
Well, certainly glad we're all able to get it across the finish line. You talk about the legislature a lot, and clearly a member of the legislature for a number of years. How did that experience shape the way that you see your role as governor, or was it helpful?
I mean, I think certainly being in the legislature, you get a good view of how state government works. And as a legislator myself, I really worked hard to work across the aisle. And so that was really helpful for me there. Some key examples: working with Governor Brewer on Medicaid expansion, working with Governor Ducey to end the backlog of untested rape kits in the state. And those were huge things for me when I was in the legislature. But I would say I think what prepared me more for being governor were both my experiences as a social worker and my experience as Secretary of State. As Secretary of State in 2020, that was one of probably the most contentious election most of us could remember in our lifetime. And it was imperative to be focused on problem solving, on being nonpartisan, and just keeping the public's confidence in our elections and working to protect our democracy. And, and I relied a lot on my background as a social worker in doing that. To me, social work is about problem solving and finding solutions for people who are struggling. And I use that all the time as governor. I think much more than my legislative experience. Being governor and being the one person where the buck stops. It stops with you. You're the one making the decision. You're not one of 435 people taking a vote. You're in charge. And so it's a very different experience than legislating.
I'm sure, having a vote on the floor is so much different than looking at a bill that's been through a 3 or 4 month process that you're either going to decide up or down.
Yeah.
What was the biggest surprise as you came into office in terms of, I think we all imagine what it would be like to be governor, but what was the biggest surprise about being governor?
Well, I think I did think that my legislative experience would be helpful just in terms of knowing how the legislature works, but every legislative session is different. So I remembered that almost as soon as I got to the 9th floor. And so it's almost like you're working with a different group of people not even every term, but every year. And certainly this past year, election year, politics have played a little bit of a role in that. But I think what I continue to say over and over again is that I think we can continue to prove, no matter all of the political games that you see on social media or whatever, that when we focus on the issue at hand and focus on Arizonans rather than the partisan politics that divide us, we can get important things done. And I think we've done that over and over again. And I would say that's kind of how I've operated all the time. So that maybe wasn't necessarily surprising to me, but a lot of times my optimism about that is surprising to other people, but I've made it work.
It's interesting. You talk about optimism and a different view of the world. I can't imagine what, for instance, Bruce Babbitt would think about being governor today, especially to your point, social media, sort of that always present chatter that's always around you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have to be really good at tuning it out, and I am, so.
I imagine you'd have to, right? And have a thick skin as well.
Yes.
So let's focus on, we talked about 479, talked about the tax cuts last session, all really important. But going forward, Arizona's got some pretty significant challenges and, of course, opportunities. One of the challenges that you always hear, and I know you've been working on, is water. Talk to us a little bit about the water side of the equation.
Yeah, water is one of our most pressing issues. And I think you brought up Bruce Babbitt, and he did, as governor, ushered in the 1980 Groundwater Management Act, which was a huge, it was very important for setting Arizona up for future success and the trajectory that we're on now with the economic growth that we're experiencing. I don't think we would be in the same place if it hadn't been for that. But our work wasn't done with that Groundwater Management Act, and so the two, I think, most pressing things: continued reform on groundwater management to ensure that families who have been here for generations can continue to be here for generations. And I've talked to a lot of families that isn't a reality for because of unchecked groundwater pumping in unregulated areas, in particularly rural communities. But then secondly is the Colorado River. And when I took office, we had sort of been neglecting negotiations on the Colorado River, and it was kind of just whatever the feds were going to impose was what they were going to impose, and that was not acceptable to me.
7 basin states weren't necessarily talking.
Right, and Arizona is in the position of taking the brunt of the federal cuts when we leave it up to the feds, and I didn't want to be in that position, and so we came together with California and Nevada to work out a temporary 3-state lower basin state agreement in 2023. That has gotten us to this point. And now we are continuing to negotiate with the 7 basin states to come to a more permanent agreement. It's been really frustrating. The upper basin is not willing to put real cuts on the table. And Arizona has taken a lot of cuts. We're willing to take more. The reality of the river is that it is drier than it was when the 1922 compact was put in place, and we all need to share in that sacrifice. So in the absence of being able to come to a 7-state deal, we again, the 3 lower basin states, presented an alternative plan that will get us a little more time to come to a 7-state agreement. And we've been, encouraging the federal government to accept that plan. Otherwise, we're in a position of taking the brunt of the cuts again, and that is not acceptable. Arizona is the state in the basin that produces more leafy green vegetables, more advanced chips, more defense missile systems, more critical minerals than any other state per drop of Colorado River water. So we are critical to the nation's economy, to our national security, and the Colorado River is critical to that. And so we're staying at the table. We're pushing for a fair deal for Arizona. And I hope it doesn't come to legal action, but we have secured funding to take that step if we have to.
It does seem like everyone's okay with shared benefit, but not necessarily shared responsibility. To your point, part of the nation's national security is based on the work that we're doing here in Arizona, but they don't seem to want to share in that responsibility.
Right.
So you're hopeful that with this next proposal that we put on the table, where Arizona certainly has skin in the game, that we can get some traction and avoid some sort of litigation. Yeah,
absolutely. We're ready to litigate if we have to, but it's really going to take the federal government pushing on the upper basin states to share in the sacrifice to get to a deal that works for all of us.
More on that to come. The other one, of course, that we're hearing about, I know you've talked a lot about as well, is energy. Mm-hmm. Certainly, we've got to power the economy and certainly have to make sure that people are comfortable and safe. How are you addressing that issue?
Well, to meet the energy needs of our growing state and to ensure that our energy stays reliable and affordable for Arizonans, we have to have an all of the above energy approach. That means not favoring one energy over another, but really doing what we can to harness all of the energy that's available to us. That was sort of the consensus that came out of my Arizona Promise Energy Task Force, which is really a great story of collaboration. We had a lot of people at the table who don't necessarily always agree. Energy developers, business community, environmentalists, consumer advocates, energy experts, and we came to consensus on a set of recommendations of how we move forward and meet the energy demand that exists. And that all of the above energy approach was really something that everybody championed. That means that we have to explore wind and solar, but also that we're not saying no to natural gas and nuclear expansion. And then also tapping into new potential sources of energy like geothermal. And we're already taking action on those things. I came out supporting the Desert Southwest natural gas pipeline expansion. The land department has been tasked with expediting permitting energy transmission on state land, all kinds of energy transmission. And in this year's budget, we secured funding for to begin geothermal exploration, which is potentially a huge untapped resource.
We haven't had a lot of geothermal, mostly solar in Arizona. You're saying that there's a possibility of geothermal as well?
Yeah, and up in Morenci, they're using it in the mining operations to leach a whole bunch more copper out of already leached ore, and so they're doing a lot with it there that we can learn from, but it is a huge potential for energy.
So obviously that's the supply side. What about the demand side?
I mean, so when I talk to our utility leaders at APS, TEP, SRP, the thing that I think I hear from them keeps them up at night the most is the large load users like data centers and the demand for that. And so I just, earlier today, we did a press conference about the tax exemption that data centers have. We put a 3-year moratorium on that.
So it's just a moratorium at this point.
Yeah, and just on the tax exemption, not on data centers. We're not talking about that. But we have to come to the right policy to ensure that that those large load users are not making the energy more expensive for customers. I know that's a something that the utilities are worried about, but certainly we're worried about too.
So it sounds like you want sort of a holistic approach on the energy side, and an equitable solution on the demand side, so that more sort of kind of a more stable type of paradigm going forward.
Yep, absolutely.
Let me pivot a little bit to workforce. You and Sandra Watson, the ACA, have done such a great job of bringing companies into Arizona. What we hear once they're here is that one of the big challenges that they're facing is workforce. And so I know that our foundation is squarely focused on that. Talk to us a little bit about how you're seeing workforce and what we might expect going forward in terms of workforce efforts.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the reasons that Arizona is benefiting from so many companies investing here, wanting to grow or start here, is because we have an available workforce. We're one of the fastest growing states in the country. But that doesn't mean that our job is done. We have to make sure that the Arizonans who are part of that workforce have the skills that our employers need. And so we've done a lot of investment in workforce. One specific example is the Future of 48 Workforce Accelerators. The first pilot with that was in Casa Grande with Lucid and with Eastern Arizona College. So it's the Commerce Authority partnering with industry, partnering with community college to tap into the workforce in the areas where it's needed and train specifically for those skills that are needed.
So it's a connection between the companies and education along with the ACA.
Yeah, and so that electric vehicle manufacturing program was successful, and we've replicated it in other areas. So most of them are in rural community colleges. Mojave County, for example, the Future 48 Workforce Accelerator there is focused on mining, which is an industry that's there. And so the other benefit is that people who grow up and live in communities and want to stay in communities, now they can tap into education that's going to train them for the jobs that are in their communities. And that's great for everyone. And so that's just one example. But we've really, it's not just the new industry that we're bringing into the state that we need to train workforce. We need healthcare workforce. We need childcare workforce. Those are so important for quality of life. And so we have made investments in those areas as well.
Do you foresee looking for additional dollars for workforce training going forward?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's federal dollars that come in that we utilize, but those have been cut a lot. And so, it was investments that we continue to fight for in the state budget.
So speaking of looking forward, 4 years from now, what were some of the things that you think you'd like to accomplish in the next 4 years that are going to be top of your agenda?
So I've been really focused for the last 4 years on things that I heard from Arizonans when I was running for governor: education, job opportunities. Water is top of mind for Arizonans, and the cost of living. And I'm really proud of the work we've done, border security also. I'm really proud of the work we've done on those areas, but they're still top of mind for Arizonans. I think some of the factors going into those are different. A lot of the challenges now are because of headwinds from Washington. So there's more to do to tackle those challenges, and I'm going to continue to focus on those issues.
Do you think there's more opportunities? I mean, we mentioned TSMC opportunities in Asia and around the world for Arizona.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, TSMC's investment in Arizona is such a huge success, and I cannot take responsibility for getting them here, but certainly working really hard to be a partner and showing TSMC that Arizona wants to be a strong partner. They've tripled down on their investment. Their investment in Arizona is $165 billion. It is by far the largest foreign direct investment that any state has seen in the country.
Imagine.
And it will probably stand as the record for a very long time. With that investment, they're building 6 fabs. For those that don't know, it's the big plant the biggest plants where they build the smallest things that we all rely on every day. And then there's advanced packaging, there's R&D. So all of it's critical. So that creates thousands of construction jobs, and it creates thousands of ongoing, good paying, quality jobs for Arizonans. That investment from TSMC, and we have a history in advanced manufacturing, from Motorola and Intel being here.
It's not new, right?
Decades. It's not new. But TSMC choosing Arizona put Arizona on the international map. And so all of these international companies that want Arizona presence are now looking at Arizona. And so we're focused on harnessing the workforce and being a good partner and showing that we're invested in the success of these companies, because that means success and opportunity for Arizonans.
And looking south, our second largest trading partner, Mexico, been so important for us. What about, aside from the fact that you mentioned border security, what are some of the other focuses with Mexico?
So one of the first things I did when I came into office was really wanted to revamp the Arizona-Mexico Commission and sort of streamline what we were focused on and ensure that we were really working towards the mutual economic benefit of the cross-border region that we share that is so important to both of our economies. And I think we did that, we have a great president of the commission, Todd. And we've had some very productive summits with our partners in Mexico, and we've really worked to focus the attention on areas where we can collaborate. It's not just on trade; it's on infrastructure, it's on agriculture, it's on education, and there's been so many partnerships that have been created that are important because we share a border. An example with agriculture, we're dealing with New World screwworm right now. So there's a lot we can learn in terms of practices that have worked in Mexico and ways we can collaborate together for treatment and prevention.
It is true. It's interesting. Some of these I think issues that people maybe aren't on people's radar, but are huge, like the screw mutual assistance. So many things that we can focus on at a micro level with Mexico that I think really impact us here in Arizona.
Yeah. Another I think really important partnership is on the port of entry infrastructure. We've done a lot to invest on the U.S. side in modernizing those ports of entry to facilitate trade and the number of trucks that come through with goods every day. Because we've invested on our side, it's prompted Mexico to invest, and I think that goes both ways. And the infrastructure improvement on both sides is really important, and having those partnerships really helps facilitate that. It's
so true. I remember being in Mexico City maybe about 5 or 6 years ago, and they looked at a map, and all roads led basically to Texas. Mm-hmm. And now that's really starting to change. Yeah. And it's great to see that focus on Arizona where it should be. There's so much opportunity for Arizona and Mexico together.
Yep.
Well, Governor, thank you for spending so much time with us. Really appreciate you doing this with us. We're going to end with a quick lightning round, as we like to do. We'll start with, what's your superpower?
Hiring well.
That's a good one.
Yes.
That's a very good one. Okay, if we opened up your playlist right now, your song playlist, what would we see? What song?
Oh, I don't know. I usually listen to music when I run, and I haven't been running, so.
You've just been running a different race.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so then what artists are you listening to right now? Who do you like?
Oh. Taylor Swift.
She's kind of been everywhere. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and we went to Toy Story 5, and man, she was all over that too. I was so surprised.
Yeah, I know. I kind of want to see that. I haven't seen it yet. Yeah.
It's good.
Okay.
There was a lot of allergies in the room. What book or person changed your life?
I don't know. There's too many.
It's hard.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. We can come back to that one. What's your favorite? This is the harder one. What's your favorite place in Arizona?
Oh, that is really hard because one of the things I love so much about Arizona is that there are so many amazing places. I grew up in Tempe. I went to undergrad at Northern Arizona University. And
Harvard of the West.
Yeah. I have to say probably Flagstaff. So many visitors that come here talk about Sedona, like Sedona is the place where everyone goes. And I love Sedona, but Flagstaff is just, people don't expect it. They think Arizona, they think desert, and they don't realize that we have the forest right there.
And in the winter, I mean, you could have 70 degrees here and you could have snow. Beautiful place. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and we hope to have you back again soon.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in to Let's Talk Business Phoenix. Now, if you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow or subscribe to our channel so that you never miss an episode. We're glad that you could join us, and we look forward to seeing you next time.